Hola, bienvenidos a esta emisión especial. ¿Recuerdan ustedes la película RoboCop? Aquella saga mítica de los 80s, 90s. Genial, ¿no? Bueno, pues tengo una invitada muy especial el día de hoy. Su nombre es Eva Rojano. Eva Rojano es una artista gráfico y catedrática de la universidad. Ella se ha dado la tarea de crear una historia increíble llamada RoboCop Enhanced Reality, en la cual este fanfiction nos muestra un universo alterno. Pero para no seguir platicándoles más, les presento a mi amiga Eva. Hi Eva.
Hi Memo, thank you for inviting me.
What is RoboCop Enhanced Reality?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Memo, for inviting me to the show. I will start by saying that I am not a screenwriter or a producer. I am a fan that decided one day to stand up from the audience seat and write the fan fiction story she always wanted to see. RoboCop Enhanced Reality, it's an alternate story that happens after RoboCop 2 and before RoboCop 3. My main focus is to bring to life the character of Anne Lewis that was sadly eliminated in RoboCop 3, among other things.
What motivated you to start the story?
As I mentioned before, my main focus is to bring to life the character of Anne Lewis. I was very heartbroken back in 1994 when she was sadly eliminated. Get them for me were the last words she says to RoboCop when she dies in his arms, and I got the message, and I am here more than 20 years later trying to fulfill that mission.
Okay, but why until now?
I think that adult life gets in the way. However, more than a year ago, let me tell you that I had this epiphany. It was a dream, a very colorful dream. I was watching some animated series of RoboCop, and those were aimed to adult audiences. And I remember that RoboCop was with Anne Lewis in the patrol car. She was wearing a very beautiful dress. It seemed like she had escaped from a date with another man, and she was finally confessing her feelings to her robotic partner. And I remember I was very excited, but then I woke up and I realized that nobody had produced that for me to see. Nobody had written that for me to read. It was just a projection of my subconscious mind.
Did you start writing them?
Well, this is funny because as I was driving to work, I remember elaborating the story in my mind. What chain of events led the characters to be in that particular situation? So when I came back home, I opened my laptop and I started writing it. That's how it started.
Oh, cool. And what happened later?
Well, something really cool, let me tell you, something really cool happened later. When I announced on the social media, Facebook, what I was intending to do, I wrote this post telling the fans that I was writing a fan fiction story, if they would be interested in reading it. By a stroke of luck, Mr. Ed Neumeier, the writer himself, read my post and he wrote a comment and said he was interested in reading my story. As you probably imagine, that made everything change. I mean, this is when the project became more complex because I realized I had to do something that was worthy of such an incredible man like him. Also, I am fortunate enough to be in contact with Nancy Allen, actress Nancy Allen, and she has also shown her support during the time I have been doing this.
Okay. Tell us, how did you contact Nancy Allen?
Well, this is a story that goes way back. It starts when I was a kid. I was a 12-year-old kid, and I was at this video rental store. And I remember I was reading this VHS box of RoboCop 2, and so I read her name, Nancy Allen. That's the moment when I decided that I was going to meet her one day. It took me many years to get to that point. I remember that I tried sending her letters. I tried looking for her address or her agent's address online, but we only found old addresses, the fans and I. Then finally I found this website, this tribute website that was created by an American girl, and she told me that Nancy herself had sent her a thank you email. So there was an idea planted in my mind then. I thought I had to learn to make websites for Nancy to find me.
Did she find you?
Well, after many struggles, it was 2003. Almost nobody knew how to make websites back then. I remember that I created a very basic website, Microsoft front page, and I put it online. It was very basic, very simple, but it was done with all my heart and soul. And I was hoping that Nancy would see it. And after a month and a half of being online, Nancy saw it and she sent me an email. And deep inside my heart, I knew it was her.
Wow. Have you met her in person?
And 2 years ago, I had the privilege to finally get to greet her in person. My brother, Roman, who's also a hardcore fan, came with me. We went to Los Angeles, Hollywood, to attend this WeSpark event. Nancy is the director of this organization, and that's how we had the chance to finally see her and talk to her. And she took us for lunch the day after. And I think she's a beautiful person inside and out. I'm very fortunate to know her.
Wow. Okay, back to your story. Where can I read it?
Well, talking about websites, let me tell you that I thought about many ways how to release the chapters for the fans. So finally I came up with the idea of creating a new website for the whole concept of RoboCop Enhanced Reality. And my plan was to start releasing chapters every 10 or 15 days. The website, I started it on in April this year, and so far we have had more than 2,000 visitors.
And what did the RoboCop creator say about it?
What did Neumeier say about it? Well, when he read the opening, the introduction, one of the things Neumeier said was that I had captured completely the essence, the personality of Anne Lewis. So imagine for me what that meant. He also said that he was glad that someone was taking direction of the character. So he just forgive me because that part of the conversation I copied and pasted it and showed it to everyone. And this is something that I'm trying to do not only with Anne Lewis but with all the characters of the RoboCop universe. My voice in the story is neutral. I'm just the storyteller, and then I engage the characters in different dialogues. I'm proud of my Sergeant Reed, for example. I go back and I read Sergeant Reed and it really seems to me it is him.
Okay. Eva, have you created new character for the story?
Oh yeah, sure. One of the biggest challenges for me was to merge the existing characters of the RoboCop universe with my own original characters. And something really interesting has been happening lately to me. Fans, the readers have started reacting to my original character, which is very flattering to me. Not so long ago, someone said to me, "Oh, I saw the spies, this cop Riggs that is always after Lewis and creating problems with RoboCop and everything." And I have gotten some comments like that, and that is very flattering to me and surprising.
What is your creative process, Eva?
Well, let me tell you, this is the first time I attempt to write a complete novel. So at the beginning, I was all over the place. I would just write what came to mind. So I had just loose chapters that had no continuity among them. One of the things that helped me to focus was to create a DeviantArt account. I call it the Shrine to My Madness. And I started creating illustrations that came to mind related to the story, and that helped me. Drawing and writing at the same time helped me to focus. Another thing that has helped me is music. For example, I can remember which song I was listening to write certain chapter. So you could say that's my creative process.
Wow, that's very interesting. Have you had any problems when writing the story?
I think the main problem I had, let me tell you this, my friend, because you will relate to this, all of us will relate to this. The main problem I had is that I'm not a native English speaker. So it's already difficult to try to write your ideas in your own mother language. So try to do it in a second language. I have to thank my friend Christine, my British friend Christine. She's the one that was coaching me along when I started writing the first episodes. I remember we were at this cafeteria in England, believe it or not, and we were sitting down and we were trying to fix my chapters. I was showing her some comic books of RoboCops to get her into the RoboCop world. But then I was very embarrassed of the context she was reading and how badly written it was. After many struggles, she rewrote chapter 1. Chapter 1 is quite complex, and she rewrote chapter 1 beautifully. But for a while, it was our nightmare. I didn't want to go back to read it. It was like, no, chapter 1, no. It was until I put it online that the fans started reacting to it. I went back and I read it, and I was like, oh, it is very beautiful.
Okay, Eva, any inspiration sources?
My biggest source of inspiration is probably the Marvel comic book series that were released in the 90s. The awesome work that artist Lee Sullivan and writer Simon Furman did with the series. One of the things that I really liked about Simon Furman is that he got inside the mind of Anne Lewis. We can see her inner suffering for falling in love with a very unconventional man, that is RoboCop. And as for Lee Sullivan, my brother Roman and I had the chance to meet him in England a few years ago. He is the funniest guy alive. He's very nice with his fans.
Besides your friend Christine, who else has helped you with the story?
Well, talking about my brother has helped me with the action sequences since I'm always more focused in the psychological depth of the characters. And something very surprising and nice happened to me when I put the website online. This fan of the story started to send me messages, a girl from Germany, Naomi, and now she's a close collaborator, believe it or not. She knows my story better than me now. She's also a graphic artist, so she's part of the team now. Also, I want to mention the incredible work that Christopher Griffith and his team are doing with the RoboDoc. Christopher Griffith is the writer and director, and they are fans like me. So I believe that right now, the ones that are keeping the RoboCop spirit alive, the original concept that was created 30 years ago, I think we're the fans, the ones that are keeping it alive. So to see what other fans are doing on a larger scale, like Christopher Griffith and his team, of course, motivates me and inspires me to keep on going.
And what is your main objective besides saving Anne?
Well, you see, talking about fun stories, things that have happened to me, very recently I met this very nice guy, Clinton, on YouTube. He had rescued an old tape of Ed Neumeier. In this video, it was like an interview of Ed Neumeier. He tells us that every story needs a premise. For me, the video was like a masterclass. And I remember that I kept on thinking, so what is the premise of my story, since I have plenty?
And do you have the premise now?
Well, after putting a lot of thought into it, I came to the conclusion that if I make the three main objectives of my story to converge into a single objective, I can have, yes, the premise of my story.
And those are?
Well, first, and the most important one, you already know it, is trying to save Anne Lewis. I go back in time. I changed the events of RoboCop 3. I use the same elements of RoboCop 3, but I retell the story in a different way, so she doesn't die. So that would be aspect 1. Aspect 2 is one thing that has always intrigued me about RoboCop is how has he adapted to the prosthetic body he didn't ask for, and now he has to live with. It's like it's a prosthetic body that was made to endure war, not to enjoy life. He's trapped in this metallic prison, and he probably wonders at times if he's still a man, if he still has a soul, or he's just a machine with the memories of a deceased man. That's aspect 2. And aspect 3 is a very inconclusive story he has with Anne Lewis. I think that their story should develop with time. What I like about them is that Lewis is an action character. She's not a love interest, the way she's presented to us in the original movie. For example, when she saves him outside the OCP building, her gender is completely irrelevant. We all want to be Anne Lewis, the one and only friend that poor RoboCop has left in the whole world.
And what will happen between them?
Oh, wow. I can't tell you exactly how things will unfold between them. But I can tell you that their relationship can be taken to the next level. I think that they start as partners and friends, but as time starts to pass by, put them together in a patrol car for years and see what happens. For example, I think that RoboCop holds on to her emotionally, physically, in order to survive. But this symbiotic connection, after a while, is going to be unfair for Lewis. Because think about it, she's the one that is human, she's the one that is complete, therefore she's the one that is going to start suffering. So what does this woman do that is in love with a very unconventional man, impossible man in so many ways, try to do? She would try to move mountains for him. She would try to unlock him from the machine as much as she can. But let's remember that RoboCop's emotional responses will always be limited by the computer that is merged within his brain.
So, will she succeed?
Well, as I said, there are good chances that the relationship can be taken to the next level. I have always wanted to see RoboCop coming to this self-acceptance process, because if there is someone that is next to him that accepts him unconditionally, then he will probably accept himself for what he is. If she doesn't see what he is, then he would start to not see it either. And here's the interesting part. Here's where the three main aspects of my story converge into one, and then we have the final premise, which is RoboCop's evolution is possible if Anne Lewis remains by his side. In other words, don't take her away from him. That doesn't work.
So you think she has to remain by his side?
It is crucial that Lewis remains by his side if all of us want to see RoboCop taking this next step of evolution in his new life as a cyborg. I have always wanted him to come to the point where he finally accepts for himself for what he is. I have read some RoboCop stories in which RoboCop is willing to get his consciousness transferred into a human body. What would be the fascination of RoboCop then? That wouldn't be RoboCop anymore. I think that RoboCop is a unique being. He's one of a kind. He's the remains of a man that survived inside a complex machine. So I think that if Lewis stays by his side, he will probably accept himself and say that he's not a man, he's not a machine, he's something in between. He's an artificial looking man that has the power and the strength to protect the innocent, to uphold the law. But then he has this person he can connect to in all possible ways. And that will be the path they will walk together. That also represents a reward for her, and that's the beauty of it. That's what I have always wanted to see.
And what about OCP and the bad guys?
Oh yes, of course. We have all the elements that we like in a RoboCop story. We have Ed 209, we have robotic enemies, we have the bad guys, the executives, we have the technicians, the cops of the station, the action, everything that we know and like from the RoboCop world. Another challenge for me is to bring RoboCop to the modern times, into the modern times, because let's remember that RoboCop will always live in a near future.
Eva, for how long will this project last?
I cannot tell you exactly for how long this project will last, since the complete novel, Enhanced Reality, it's split into 3 parts, and each part contains around 12 or 13 chapters. So far, the first part is complete on the website for the fans to read. I'll leave you the link for everyone to go visit.
Thanks.
And I'm currently working in part 2 and part 3.
Any final comments?
Well, I want to thank my friends from the RoboCop and Lewis fan group on Facebook for their motivation, comments. They are the ones that are always pushing me to forward. Also, I want to thank the people from the RoboDoc, Christopher Griffith. He is always very nice when giving me advice. And those guys are doing something really amazing. I hope we can show a bit of the trailer later on. And Nancy Allen. Nancy has been very awesome, very sweet. She has been following my artistic processes, mostly on Instagram, sometimes on Facebook. And finally, Ed Neumeier. He has been of a great help with comments. He has been very attentive. And of course, he has motivated me greatly to continue with this. And well, thanks to you for inviting me to the show and giving me this magnificent chance to talk about my project. Thank you very much, my friend Memo.
Muchísimas gracias, Eva, por acompañarnos en esta entrevista. Amigos, pues ya vieron, tuvimos una emisión especial muy interesante y pues no dejen de seguirnos y sobre todo no dejen de seguir las publicaciones de RoboCop Enhanced Reality. Nos vemos.